Hi, Amy.
Hello, Dr. Edith. How are you today?
Great. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
Oh, yeah, I'm so excited for this conversation. It's really nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How long is the show going to be?
It's about an hour. We talk for about an hour.
Okay, great.
That works for
Awesome.
your
Thanks for having
schedule?
me. What's that?
That works for your schedule?
Yeah, it's perfect. It's
Okay,
perfect.
awesome.
Tell me
Yeah.
about your audience and what would inspire them.
Well, my podcast is about spiritual and psychic awakening. So it's been running for 7 years, and I'd say my audience is very primed to understand what it is that you do and what you work on and the amazing things that are being experienced by the children and the adults that you work with. And um, yeah, that's what I mean. I'd say what they all have in common is that they are interested in spirituality. They already kind of have this sense that there's something beyond what we typically accept and experience. And there are a lot of people in my audience who, like Aaron Young, are, very, very ready to believe in more.
Cool. Amazing.
Hmm.
Okay, we can just, I don't have to censor myself or
Oh, no, not at all.
it's not like the normie crowd. They get it already.
That's right. It's not the normie crowd. Yeah, you can talk about whatever you want. The I go to weird places all the time in my conversations and in my solo episodes. So,
Yay,
yeah.
awesome. I love it. I'm so excited.
Yeah. Is there anything in particular that you like? Is there any angle that you'd like to take or that feels, like, is there anything that feels really fresh and exciting for you to talk about today? I usually kind of run my podcast as like a conversation as opposed to an interview. So I like to like ask you about yourself and, your spiritual awakening and how you got here and whatever, and give the audience a sense of who you are. And then we just kind of chat about whatever. So is
Perfect.
there anything
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
alive for you?
I guess that I have plenty of good stories to share. Like,
Hmm.
you know, fun mystical stories. But I think the theme is like blindfold vision, spoon bending, telekinesis, telepathy, all these things. I think the theme is more like blindfold vision isn't about the blindfold vision. Spoon
Yeah.
bending isn't actually about the spoon bending, like these we can get trapped in these abilities and it can become some kind of an ego trap. So there's a nuance that there that I think we can chat about.
Oh, I'd love to talk about that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, great. There's
Okay.
a friend in the back. Is that your
I
husband?
know. Yes, I don't have a door on my office. I work from home, so he was just
That's
walking
great.
across the
Sometimes
hallway.
I have, well, right now I don't have anybody, but the kids are with dad and yeah, I think we're good. But sometimes they're like my kids are running around in the background.
Yeah, same, same, same. It's life as a mom, right?
Do you have kids? How old are they?
They're about to turn 5 and 8. My daughter's going to be 8 on Friday, and then my son will be 5 a month after that. Mhm.
Amazing. Wow, what kind of wizardry are they into?
Oh, I haven't really done too much of that kind of wizarding stuff with them. I just talked to them about like, that magic is real and teaching them. I would say it's really interesting because I have an older son who's 21 and he was like, I swear that he's an ascended master and I just have the joy of being his mother. Um, and these two children feel very human, very, very human in the most delightful way. So they're not really, yeah, they're, playing with Hot Wheels, and my daughter likes to dress up like a garden fairy and prance around outside.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So, do you have any questions for me before we hit record?
No, let's I trust the flow. I trust your flow.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm so excited for this. Okay. All right. So I'll just welcome my audience and welcome you. And I record a separate introduction to add on to it later on. So I'll just welcome you and then ask you, to tell us about yourself and how you got into this amazing line of work.
Perfect.
Okay. Hello, friends. I am so excited. I have such an amazing conversation in store for you. It is with Dr. Edith Ubuntu Chan, who is doing amazing work with children and also, by extension, adults with things like blindfold vision and telepathy and just activating the psychic gifts that, well, I talk about them all the time. Like, I know that we're capable of so much more than we've been led to believe about ourselves and understand. And Dr. Edith is really doing the work. So I'm really excited to have this conversation. Welcome, Dr. Edith.
Thanks so much for having me, Amy.
Yeah, I'm so thrilled. Can you tell us just a bit about yourself and how, like, what your journey through life has been, your journey with your own consciousness, and if there was ever a point of awakening for you, or if you feel like you kind of always were awakened and tapped in ever since you were a child, and how you came to be doing this particular kind of work of really like creating results for people that they can see to believe.
It's always interesting telling the backstory because it's like, where do you begin? The tapestry of life, it all weaves together somehow. And even when we're super 3D, at some point you realize you connect the dots that there were no accidents there either. But I would say that I was a pretty magical child. When I was 4 years old, I saw this qigong healer heal my dad's back pain in one single session. After they had been to doctor after doctor, nobody could help. And this qigong healer healed my sister's ankle sprain, which was all swollen. In one session, it shrank right down. And so that created an imprint at age 4, where it was like, wait a minute, you guys went from doctor to doctor to doctor, nobody could help. And this guy, pennies on the dollar, in one single session, healed both of you in one session. What is going on here? Why are we how does this reality work? Why are the adults wasting so much time, energy, and money going to see all the people that didn't give them results when this guy is charging hardly anything in one session, is able to take care of everything? What's going on here? So that created an imprint as a 4-year-old that it was like, something is kind of strange about this reality. The adults, I don't know if I can make sense of how the adults make decisions around here. So I was 4. I saw that happen. And I told all the adults, I said, when I grow up, that's what I'm going to do when I grow up. I'm going to be a Chinese medicine qigong healer. And so everybody said, no, you can't make any money. Also, you have to be a boy to apprentice with a master. And then maybe you hope that when you grow up, they'll hand off all the secrets of the lineage to you. And this was in Hong Kong where I was growing up. And so after months of this, I told all the adults, I said, I guess if I can't be a qigong healer, I guess I'll just be an astronaut. Because as a child, I used to stare at the ceiling and I would see through these portals of geometries, and the geometries would turn into the cosmos, and I would go traveling and flying through the stars and cosmos and connect with all these multidimensional beings, and orbs would come to the bedroom to visit me at night and talk to me. And I remember telling people about it, and nobody knew what I was talking about. So yeah, so I said, I wonder if astronauts know about that stuff. So I told them, the adults, as a 4-year-old, 4.5-year-old, after many months, I said, if I can't be a Qigong master, I guess I'll be an astronaut. Maybe I'll understand more about the cosmos. And so all the adults said, okay, good. Go and be really good at math and science and engineering. And even though you're a girl, there is potentially a path to be good at math, science, and engineering. And you can be a girl astronaut when you grow up. So they were trying to be open-minded and encouraging in that way. So I thought, okay, yeah, I guess I can be good at anything I want. So I end up going to Harvard, studying applied mathematics and, being good at math and science and engineering, like my parents had told me as a little girl. And then fast forward, I graduated with this degree. and the dot-com boom was just getting started, and all these technology companies were recruiting. So I just kind of fell into a job, a high-paying job in software. And so I got one job, then I had another job, and my second job, apparently I was quite good at what I was doing, that they kept inviting me to these really senior meetings with board members, advisors, and CXOs. And I walked into one of these meetings and I looked around. Of course, my immigrant parents are super proud at this point. I graduated from Ivy League University. I have a high-paying software job. Everything seems to be going well. But I walk into this meeting and I had this flash forward, flashback moment. I saw all these super successful people, super intelligent, smart, successful. They were kind people, but they were all stressed out, unhappy, unfulfilled. They didn't look very healthy. They didn't look very content. And I had this moment where it was like, oh, wow, here I am, 24 years old. These are the people I'm supposed to be like when I grow up. I don't want to be like any of these people, actually. No offense to any of them, because they were kind, great, smart people, but none of them looked like the model of what I wanted to be 30 years later. So in that moment, I had this flash forwards, decades from the future, that I would be just like these people, and then flash back to 4 years old, little Edith, with a qigong master. And I was like, wow, wait a minute. I'm living the wrong life. This wasn't how it's supposed to be, I don't think. So that day, I went back to my computer and started researching Chinese medicine, qigong, all holistic healing. How can I change my career? And I essentially cold turkey quit a software job. I don't recommend it, but luckily I didn't have children. I didn't have a mortgage at that point. I feel very blessed. Many people have midlife crisis. I had basically a quarter life crisis, which is really a huge blessing, because now, in my late 40s, I understand these changes could take a lot more courage to make these changes, later in life. So I feel very blessed. So I was 24 and I cold turkey quit that supposedly very successful job. All of my immigrant family, everybody's super hardworking. It was like, you've made it. You've made it. You graduated from school. You have a great budding career. You're so successful. You're winning Employee of the Year award. You are getting promoted all the time. And suddenly I announced to my family, I'm quitting everything to become a broke hippie healer, basically. To their mind, like just basically a quack, right? Even though they have had their own experiences of successful healing in Chinese medicine and qigong, they still felt like, if I wanted to be helping people, many of them said, why don't you go to conventional Western medicine school? You're so smart. You're getting straight A's all the time in school. You can get into any medical school you wanted if you put your mind into it. And so there was a lot of tension. For about 10 years, actually, my family was like very worried and concerned and disappointed, because it was like, what have you done? You've thrown everything away to become some kind of a starving grad student. And at that time, Chinese medicine practitioners, if you looked up on the internet, on average made something like $30,000 a year, which, in the San Francisco Bay Area, it was like not enough to even for the very basic of the basics. So it was a completely illogical decision to make. So I start Chinese medicine school, and it was such a beautiful experience. This studying of the cosmology in Chinese medicine, there's an understanding that the human being is a bridge between heaven and earth. In Chinese medicine, you study acupuncture techniques class, where you learn how to guide the qi flow. You study the meridian system. There's also Western medicine. There is herb-drug interactions. There's all these very grounded 3D things. And at the same time, there's also the practice of qigong and tai chi. So I felt so much more balance in my education in Chinese medicine school, that there was this beautiful poetic cosmology of what a human being actually is. And then there's the grounded 3D practical stuff, like we had anatomy and cadaver labs and all these other things, nutrition, herbs, pharmacology. So it was very, very well balanced. But my favorite classes were always the acupuncture techniques class, where we learned how to work with the qi, and of course the qigong classes, where you actually practice and go into that direct experience of the energetic state of our health and well-being, and how to work with the flows of the qi. So I wonder if your audience is familiar with qigong. Should I explain what qigong is?
I think you could explain it a little bit. Yeah, that would probably help people.
Okay, so for the probably a lot of the audience has heard about Qigong, but the way that I define Qigong is basically any kind of practice where we're focused on deep breathing. We're focused on our attention and intention, and using that to guide the flow of the energy in our physiology. And we're also having some intentional movement or positioning of the physical body. So some kind of seated posture or standing posture or mudra or some kind of movement that assists in the flow of the energy. So your attention and intention, your breathing practice to guide the flow of the qi, and also your physical body posture or movement to help support the flow of the qi. So if you have these three elements, that's called qigong. Is that simple? So really, any part of life could become qigong. You know, life, the whole practice of life could be qigong. Like you could do dishwashing or laundry, folding, or just snuggling with your children can be qigong. Running your business can be qigong. You can apply this to any aspect of life. So that was my favorite class in Chinese medicine school. This integration of mind, body, energy, all the systems, and how to work with the energetics of life. To me, that was such a profound practice. And every single time you practice like this, it's always a win. Because when is it not rich and rewarding to slow down and notice your breath, and slow down and attune your attention and intention to where you actually want to focus, and let go of distractions? Let go of other people's agendas, not get hooked into other people's agendas, and just reclaim that energy, that potency, that power to direct your attention, your intention, your energy, and your breath towards what you actually want to create and experience. Like, that's life, that is the most beautiful skill for life. And I'm surprised that, I feel grateful that I was introduced to it in Chinese medicine school, but I'm surprised that that was almost like an extracurricular class, because it is such a foundational, potent, and powerful practice that supports everything else in life. Anyway, so Chinese medicine school, I'm just in love with everything that I'm learning. My parents are very angry and upset and worried. And I'm actually like eating not even rice and beans at this point, because I hadn't really saved up much money to go back to grad school. I'm just mostly eating rice with a little sauce. I was so just pinching pennies at that point. But through the joy of everything that I was studying, and also the Qigong practices, all of my health ailments from my software career completely disappeared. I was 15, 20 pounds heavier than I am now. I had acne. I had all these digestive problems every single month. I hope it's not TMI. I had menstrual cramps. I was getting colds and flus all the time, headaches, all these things gone. And it wasn't like I was trying to eat super healthy. I was just living in a state of joy and fulfillment. All of my health ailments completely disappeared. So I knew that my body told me I was on the right path, despite all of the aunties and uncles constantly be like, come on, honey, we'll help you get into Western medicine school. Go be a real doctor. And you're so smart. Don't put your Harvard trained intellectual brain all to waste. I was getting so much of that from the family. But I knew my body told me this is the right path for you. And I knew in my heart and in my body and deep within my being that I was on the right path. And there was nothing that anybody could do at that point to dissuade me from it. Even though the doubts and worries did come in, it's like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, statistically, this is not a smart path for financial stability or whatever my immigrant family was really worried about. They had valid concerns. But I was so the richness and fulfillment of studying qigong and studying the energetics of life, it was so clear that this is what I was meant to be doing. So every single qigong class, it was this beautiful experience of dropping deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of peace, a state of contentment, a state of inner attunement that was so rich and rewarding that there was nothing else in life that was feeding me like that. Also, outside of school, I studied with another qigong master who did impossible things all the time. The kinds of things I saw at age 4, it was happening many times a day, every single day. I saw thousands of these impossible cases apprenticing with this qigong master outside of class too. So all of this was letting me know, keep going, keep going, keep going. And this qigong teacher that taught in our Chinese medicine school, she also taught more advanced classes outside of school, beyond just the standard curriculum of school. So I would take classes with her. And in one of her classes, she was guiding this more advanced meditation that had to do with the synchronization of the third eye and the heart. And I was following her guided meditation and going deeper and deeper and deeper. Every practice was always wonderful, but this particular day, for whatever reason, maybe the right alignment of different factors or, the planetary alignments, I don't know why this was so potent this particular time. I dropped deeper and deeper and deeper into this guided meditative practice. And then all of a sudden, the whole thing exploded into trillions of pieces of pure love, pure light. Suddenly, there was no time, no space, no identity as an Edith sitting in a classroom meditating. The whole thing just became the size of the entire cosmos. And the feeling was so beautiful. I hadn't read any books about it. I had no reference point for such a thing. But somehow I knew that I had gone home and returned to our natural state. From this perspective, I realized this is the truer, deeper reality. And the other one felt like a cartoon fake version of reality. And so I'm in this state, and part of the meditation, one of the instructions was, if you have any questions to ask in this meditative state, is a beautiful opportunity to get some deeper answers. So the teacher had said, bring a question into this meditation and see if you get some interesting answers. So I had brought a question, and that was still hovering in this space, the question I asked. But the question was answered in this deep, direct, experiential way that was also holistic, omniscient, 360-degree perspectives on that question. So the question was met with an answer that was like almost like infinite perspectives on that question was simultaneously shown to me, but through the knowingness and direct experiencing state, not like cognition or language or anything. It was just a knowing and an experiential answer that was so holistic, omniscient, 360-degree that it was like, it just made the question feel almost absurd. And in this state, I understood that all questions could be answered in this way, and that there's no more questions and all the answers are available in this state. And it's just like this complete, like, why do we have any lack? Why do we have any more questions? It's just like complete contentment is really what it was. Because for a long time after that experience, is these kinds of mystical experiences are so ineffable that I know and your audience knows, like, it just seems a little bit silly to try to say it with words what was happening there. But I think your audience can get the deeper essence in between my words, the experience of something like this. So in this state, I'm recognizing that I returned to our natural state, that this pure love, pure light, pure peace and contentment, all of this is really our truer, deeper natural state. I don't know how much time elapsed, because an experience like this feels almost like instantaneous and completely eternal at the same time. Like the idea of time seems so strange. But eventually there was a voice. And this voice went, like far away voice. And then suddenly there was a distant memory of a qigong teacher in a classroom in San Francisco teaching a class. And there was a distant memory of some girl named Edith sitting in that classroom who's supposedly a student in that class. And then there was this, maybe it should go back to that moment. And when that happened, this vastness of the entire cosmos made a choice to densify itself back into this pretense of a physical body known as Edith Chan, sitting in a classroom, 20-something-year-old young lady trying to do a qigong meditation in a classroom in San Francisco. And it was this absurd feeling of squeezing the size of the cosmos into a pretense of a physical body. And when it finally landed, these eyeballs just started bursting with avalanches of tears, just faucets of tears, like running, like, avalanches just pouring down my face. And later on, I was able to try to articulate this clashing of all these sensations in that moment, like the most intense gratitude and appreciation to have returned home and remembered who and what we are. That this gift, this blessing of having to that little experience of who and what we are, this potency of love and beauty and contentment, to have remembered that. And then simultaneously with that, this instantaneous recognition, like, hey, this place is kind of backwards and upside down here. Like, there's a lot of things that I've bought into that were just a bunch of lies. So it was like an instantaneous recalibration of my inner compass of what feels closer to truth and what feels further from truth. And that became the guiding compass that directed my life ever since. And this was December 2003 when this happened. And I would say that the rest of my life, the rest of my path since then has been a process of integrating that experience and letting that be my compass to guide each and every step along the way. And sometimes, not just sometimes, very often life doesn't make logical and linear sense. And yet here we are, fast forward to 2026. I'm surrounded by magical, beautiful people like you, where the vast majority of my conversations is about the most beautiful new human possibilities. How do we embody, integrate, stabilize this truth of who and what we really are while we're in the physical life also. And what does it look like and feel like to activate and awaken more and more of our dormant gifts and abilities and express this true essence self more fully into the physical dimension of life? And that's kind of a full circle thing with Chinese medicine, learning this beautiful philosophy of Chinese medicine that a human being is the bridge between heaven and earth. And now, in a very tangible, practical, day-to-day way, how do we express that in these ways with blindfold vision or mindsight, telepathy, but also a grounded approach to motherhood, parenting, education? How do we run our businesses from this state? And these are the conversations that I love to be involved in. Like, how do we, from this understanding of who and what we are, how do we do the practical day-to-day aspects of life? So I've
Right.
spoken a lot. I'll take a pause and hear your thoughts.
I just loved that whole story. There's so many things that I want to comment on. I'll start backwards with what you just said. I I love that you brought it back to like the practicalities of parenting or education or just like living the rhythms of life, running a business or going to work, whatever it is, because it's like integrating, so that's not compartmentalized, like so that we can be integrated as our extremely magical, like limitless, lucid selves in the human experience, rather than having to like go, to maybe like a Vipassana retreat exclusively to have those, to enter those states or to experience that magic. But it's like bringing the magic into the everyday mundane realities of existing as a human in this world. But oh my gosh, I loved your story so much. I just want to honor how challenging it must have been to say yes to yourself when your family who loved you and, who felt like probably that they sacrificed a lot to set you up to have the idea of success that they had, when they weren't able to be supportive, like they were just in their own feelings about it and their own fear, and how challenging it must have been to say yes to what your soul was calling you towards and your body was telling you that you needed, even though you didn't have that support and you weren't understood by your family. And
I should point out that they're all very supportive and proud now, but it took about 10 years before they
yeah,
saw, oh, she's not homeless. She's actually quite fulfilled and doing well as a holistic medicine practitioner. And we don't totally understand her life, but we see that she's not, totally she seems very healthy, happy, fulfilled, and she has a stable life. So that ultimately, the truth has staying power. Eventually people come around.
that's right, and that's what they wanted for you, but it didn't look to them like that was the path you were taking for yourself when you abandoned your lucrative career in software, to move into Chinese medicine. Also, when you were talking about being in that, when you were in that one meditation between the heart and the third eye, and you went to a space where the question was immediately answered, my mind automatically went to the Akashic Records, which is what I love to work in. And I was like, oh, I've just the way you were describing it, it feels like that was the Akashic Records where, because I've kind of described it similarly. It's like a 360-degree, like you get the understanding, the answer from all angles and all perspectives, all the way into like the nitty-gritty emotions and the thoughts that were thought by all parties involved, but without judgment either. It's like complete compassion, like it just is, it is, and the answer is there, and now you have peace because the answer is provided, and the question becomes, yeah, like moot and kind of adorable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this unconditional love, total non-judgmentalness, and also the depth of wisdom that we can access. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, on the one hand, there's total non-judgmentalness, and on the other hand, there's so much depth, so much nuance, so much elegance, and so much wisdom that you tap into that it causes us to want to do better in this life.
Right, totally, totally. And the answers are available. Like that's the thing that always feels especially beautiful to me is that like if you truly want the answer and you have the patience to open yourself to it and align with the frequency at which the answer exists, then the answers are there. Like it's not being withheld from us there. The answers are there. Um, oh, there's so much I want to talk to you about. Okay, so obviously there's a lot that I also want the audience to know about. So you eventually came to work with children, and I feel like probably what, and this is an assumption, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the things that you saw apprenticing under that qigong master allowed like created the framework or laid the foundation for you to eventually be able to do the work that you do with children in particular. I know about the seeing blindfolded because one of my amazing group participants, Erin, um, her daughter started working with you, and we got to see a demonstration of her daughter seeing with a blindfold, and it was so confirming for me because the way it works for me, Dr. Edith, is I get these visions of what's possible for humans, and I don't always get the instructions of how to do it. I feel like I'm a powerful belief holder that I can go with the expansion of what we're capable of and just hold that belief, and um it starts to manifest around me. So but I question myself too sometimes. I'm like, am I crazy? Like should I be saying this stuff to people? Like for example, I've seen telepathy for a while and the sort of the mechanics of how it works. And then also our ability to use our voices to return temporarily turn solid matter into a plasma state that allows it to be sculpted and moved. And like there are so many things that humans can do, and we've just been we've forgotten for a really long time that that's possible. And so when Aaron's daughter showed us that she could see through a blindfold, it was so confirming because I was like, yes, I knew. I knew we could do this. It was so wonderful to see an example of it. And you are the one who taught her daughter how to do that. So can you talk
I
about this
don't want
work
to
that you're
take
doing?
credit for teaching. I created an environment where she remembered she already had this skill.
Yes. Okay.
And I made it
That's
a
fair.
fun and joyful environment where she was like she enjoyed it, and so more of it came out, Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't there's no teaching anybody. And I will claim credit for being having the skill of creating the kind of community, the kind of culture, the kind of environment, and also simplifying way down the methodologies of the different practices that leads us to remembering these gifts and abilities we have in a quicker, more direct and effective way,
Hmm.
because this work has been around and I studied deeply the different methodologies, and I'm like you, Amy. I see patterns very quickly, and so I instantly can see, oh, these are inefficiencies. Like we don't need to do that anymore. Let's simplify, and turn it into a lot more joyful, playful approach to all this stuff where it awakens much more naturally. So we get incredible results in a far shorter amount of time because of the way in which our program and the communities and the families and parents that we bring into the community, we co-create a very potent field of energy as a community. Instead of the old way of just one-on-one, it used to be where the child is dropped off at the teacher's house, working in person one-on-one for 10 or 12 lessons, and then the kids get activated. We decided to do it completely differently, where it's a group program with all these beautiful families all co-facilitating their children together with us. So we spend at least half of our energy sharing with the moms and dads the methodology, And then the core lessons, we co-facilitate the journey together with the kids. So we get the errands of the world, like these very attuned, aware, conscious moms and dads who want to be engaged in the process. So it turns out it's not even about the blindfold vision. The whole family goes into coherence together through this journey. And so we have exponential, a whole different octave of results because it attunes the entire family to this super coherent flow state in just 6 short weeks. And then the families, the moms and dads really, really get it. And so they are incredible ambassadors of these possibilities in their local community. And so they help us pre-filter other amazing families into the program. And we just keep accelerating. After 320 something families that have been through our kids program, now we're getting whole levels of results that we could have never imagined before. And it's because of this accelerating process of bringing the whole community and all these families together.
Yeah, it's like it builds like a whole other level of momentum. Yeah, that really makes sense. The community dynamics and the ability to sync up and do it together. I've found that as well. Like when I'm, for example, if I'm guiding people into the Akashic Records as a group, it's so it's almost like palpable. Like you feel like you could grip it in the air, because we're
Yes.
all tuning into it and we're holding it. So that's really amazing that you made that shift. And do you find, I also love your approach of being like playful about it and creating a joyful atmosphere within which to recall like what is already inside. Do you find that children are particularly easy to work with because they're so light and joyful and playful naturally, and they don't have a lot of limiting beliefs compared to adults?
Yeah, there's so many kind of secret sauces that we bumbled into. So what I can I give you a little backstory?
Would
So
love, yeah.
I had first heard about this back in 2011. So in 2003, after my mystical experience, I started traveling around the world studying different meditation practices with different healers, going into deep retreat. I did a couple of darkroom meditation retreats. I studied with some interesting teachers like Drumvalo Melchizedek for all the
Mhm.
OGs. In 2011, I was at one of his workshops, and he mentioned about these people in Mexico that do something called extraocular vision. And if you catch the children just at the sweet spot of age 6 to 11, that's the sweet spot. And they have tendency towards being super psychic kids. They have certain inclinations and gifts. Then you can awaken these abilities in about 10 sessions or 12 sessions. And it's really profound what is demonstrated, and is really rare, if not almost impossible, for adults to tap into this ability. That was my sensing. I don't know exactly what he said, but I had this imagination that is much, much, much harder for adults, if not almost impossible, if you don't catch them at that sweet spot of 6 to 11. Fast forward, in 2013, I come out of a really life-changing experience in a darkroom meditation where it was 11 days in this dark building with 9 days and 9 nights of complete darkness, fasting, meditation, going deep, remembering other lifetimes, remembering more deeply the details of why I incarnated into this life. And when I came out of that 2013 retreat, I had a leap in my intuitive abilities. So I had the direct experience of something more tangible to me that I could experience, where I went back to Chinese medicine clinic and I just knew things about my my clients. And it was very useful during the day, but at night I didn't quite have the skill to focus it and turn it on and off. So I was hearing and sensing the cacophony of thoughts and emotions of my whole apartment building in San Francisco. And it was so loud. I was like, turn it off, but I don't know how. So I ended up moving to the countryside. And as soon as that happened, my now 11-year-old boy started jumping into my dreams and showing me visions of the new generation of children and what they're here to bring and how they're going to embody these new possibilities, which I love so much what you shared off camera, Amy, that this new generation of children, they are very magical, but they're very grounded, practical, embodied, and it's not a big deal. In fact, recently my 11-year-old said, Mama, at some of your adult workshops, you guys are making such a big deal about the blindfold vision, all this stuff. He's like, it's kind of cringe. It's like, it's just normal, to my kids because they've been around it all their lives, basically. These intuitive abilities is no different than rollerblading or riding a bike or learning to swim. It's just another part of the skill of being a human. What's the big deal? Why are you guys making it like, oh, these psi abilities is like extra sensory? But arts and crafts is just as awesome. Like to them is equal. And so I think we're entering into time where these abilities is just like reading, writing, arithmetic, or intuitive capacities will have a lot more nuance to it, and will understand that it's a basic kind of literacy for a human being to be balanced and, like integrated. It's just part of this human experience. And so we don't have to separate it as some other, like, only spiritual people do it, because we're all spiritual. And also we'll stop calling it the sixth sense because it's actually the first sense. Like all of these things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to be a midwife before I started this podcast, and that was always what I took away from it was like, oh, our psychic abilities, that's like literally our first language, our native language. Like it's the only language we have when we're in the womb and when we're born and when we're in our infancy, like up until we start to actually learn to speak with words and we're taught like this object is a mug and that object is a banana. That kind of like collapses the psychic field a little bit, but it doesn't have to be a threat. It just like it condenses it a little or puts it in a framework. But prior to learning to speak in words, especially when we're a baby and we're not even really processing in words, we're just interfacing with our environment and all the people around us on a psychic level. It's not like some special gift that a few people have. It's just us.
I'm so grateful to hear, and it makes so much sense that you were a midwife before. And for me, the two births of my two children, now they're 6 and 11, were both powerful mystical experiences that inform so much of it embodied and integrated a state of being into my physiology, into this vessel that actually informs a lot of what I do now also. The tapping into the deeper wisdom and intelligence, the deeper knowingness that we all have access to, that is not in the head, is not cognitive, but is a much deeper level of intelligence and wisdom that we can access. And it's actually very efficient, like it's a direct knowing. Anyway, so in 2013, after moving to the countryside, this little boy started jumping into my dreams and explaining that there's a whole generation of these incredible children. Now I call them the luminous kids. I call all of us luminous humans because we're all accessing a fuller expression of our inner luminosity. We used to call them the indigos, the rainbows, the crystal. It's like, well, we're all of that now. We are integrating all these possibilities and expressing it holistically. And so he shared that, yeah, there's a fuller story to it, but in the interest of time, the real key point was this generation of us kids, we're not going to be philosophizing about this. It's not a religion, it's not a philosophy, there's no dogma. We're just going to show you through how we show up as human beings a new set of possibilities of what it actually is to be truly, fully human. So he said, I need a body to do that. Can you conceive me, please? And he also showed that we would be connected in these, he showed me all these orbs of light, all these babies that are incarnating, and the strings and strands of light, and how we're all intimately connected to all these families across the world and all the communities. And as these children grow up, they will inspire all of our families to connect across the world to create this network of energy. And together, all of these families will blanket the earth with this beautiful energy together. And so he said, the intricacies of the interdependences of our conceptions and births and so on, the geographic location, the timing is so intricate. He said, if you choose not to conceive me, he disappeared the whole scene. He said, we'd have to figure out the next permutations because it affects everything. So it was like no pressure or anything,
Right.
And so, long story short, we ended up conceiving this magical child, and I already had many months of friendship with him because every night I was cosmic traveling with him and we'd gotten to know each other like best buddies. So all throughout the pregnancy, he guided me into what to eat, which midwife to work with for our home birth, and all of those things. And when he was 3.5, he started talking about, oh, my sister, she's still in space. She has to be coming to Earth now. So both of these children, we had the incredible experience of attuning to them, talking with them, asking them for guidance, and both of them were consciously conceived, or we felt the day that they said, we're ready, and they were both conceived like this. And it's just been such a magical and beautiful journey. Now they're 6 and 11, and they love, they love all the things, like they love all the 3D things, and they also love all the magical wizardry things too. And all of that is considered just as fun and just as equal and just as normal in their lives. And it's been a beautiful journey.
Yeah.
So the blindfold vision specifically really started for us in 2020, because there's a great documentary called Superhuman that came out in 2020. And I hear that Superhuman 2 is about to come out, and it features heavily two of our dear friends and colleagues that we collaborate with for our adult blindfold vision work, which is Dahlia, who co-teaches the adult workshops together with me, and Sean, who is this amazing blind man with no physical eyeballs, whose Mindsight abilities are so beautiful and inspiring. Scientists are studying him because if he doesn't have physical eyeballs, there's no worry that is he potentially cheating or peeking or whatever. The man doesn't have physical
Right.
eyeballs, okay? I mean, bless his heart. Sometimes these blind people, like the doubters and skeptics, are like, can you take off your eyeballs just to prove that you really don't have eyeballs? It's like, that's a little bit offensive. But Sean's like, okay, for science, I'm willing to do it. So he just has such a big, generous heart. Anyway, back to 2020. We saw this documentary, and my then 5.5-year-old boy said, let's take a class. Can we take a class? Where can we take a class so I can learn to do this? And so Carolyn Corey, who made the film, invited a man named Bodan Dolban, who was based in Canada, but he had studied a method called infovision that was developed in Eastern Europe by these two pioneers named Mihaela Yusrati and Mark Komizrov. Mihaela has passed on, and Mark, it sounds like nobody really knows what he's up to. He's no longer doing this work, but back when they were, a decade or so ago, they had trained a number of facilitators in their methodology. So Bodan took that methodology and kept innovating with it, and he was teaching 101 private classes in person. And Carolyn reached out to him and said, COVID shutdowns, there's no in-person stuff really happening. Would you be willing to try it out on the internet, see if it would work? So I ended up being one of a few families that experimented with whether or not we could even do it over Zoom. It requires that the parents now be tolerated, because it used to be parents don't even be in the room, because if you had the wrong energy, it could mess up the activation process, because that initial opening requires so much positivity and encouragement and the total unshakable knowingness and belief that the child can activate this ability. So that doubtful, skeptical energy can throw the energies off. Later, when the child's really stable, it doesn't matter. But when they're just starting to open, it's really delicate, that energy that you bring into that activation process. So it used to be like, parents, stay out of the way, you could mess it all up. But Boudin said, let's try it. Maybe it will succeed, maybe it'll fail, but let's give it a go. And I was part of my 5.5-year-old, and then my infant that I was like bouncing in my carrier, and it was a real clunky. We were like moving the papers and all the activities, and somehow he was able to read blindfolded within a couple sessions, and I was just absolutely mind blown. And so I stayed in touch with Boudin over the years, because around that time I started getting really immersed into holistic parenting. I have a project called the Luminous Education Revolution. And I think that might have been how Erin, who connected us, she first found my education work, because she was really going through a journey of different perspectives on how to raise and nurture and parent and educate this next generation of incredible children. We know that the conventional system doesn't nurture their holistic gifts. So we know what we don't want, but what do we want, you know? So I started getting into these different projects and summits and running masterminds with all of these beautiful families that are asking simpler questions, like, there's got to be a better way. How do we raise and nurture these children based on our understanding of who a human being is? Who are we? What are we doing here? What is the purpose of this human existence, this life? And from that perspective, how do we define intelligence and success and all these things? Is very different from the old paradigm. And out of that, what is the education and parenting that honors all of that? So I was in those types of conversations in my masterminds, in the work, in the summits that I was running. So I get back in touch with Boudin, and I said, I think we can put our hearts and minds together and completely rework the methodology. Because now I have thousands of beautiful families that are very holistically oriented. Many of them are Reiki healers, qigong practitioners. They are holistically minded. They may or may not do these things for a living, but they have had their mystical experiences, and they really, really get it. Not only can we tolerate them being part of the process, we should welcome them, embrace them, because they could probably help us refine and accelerate the results. You know, let's invite them deeply into the process. So we developed this 6-week protocol where the first week and the 6th week is just focused on sharing all the beautiful methodologies and the keys to success with the moms and dads. And then they're in discussion groups together all throughout the journey. And sometimes we even have pop-up, Q&As if we need extra support. But the core 4 weeks is really just 4 weekly lessons where we co-facilitate together with the moms and dads. And the results are just shocking. How quickly, very often within the first session, and then within the 4 sessions, we start with, one opening, another opening, and then gradually we progress to where the kids can see big objects, medium objects, smaller and smaller and smaller, towards being able to read books. And then we open up, in front of the face, behind the head, to the side, and gradually further and further. And then we transition them towards remote viewing games and activities. And so every kid has different results, but they all have some kind of very obvious opening of these so-called superpower abilities within the 4 weeks. And we do notice that usually younger kids open faster, but the older kids are starting to open really fast too, and they get really committed to their practice. And so they might open a little bit slower, the older kids, the teenagers, but they actually, once they get into it, they're even more stable in their practice, and they progress really beautifully. And then the kids start putting the blindfolds on the moms and dads and start playing games with moms and dads, like, Mom, Dad, can you put it on? I'll teach you. And so that's how we end up getting tons of demand for adult trainings, because the moms and dads are discovering that if they open their abilities, they can keep nurturing it even better with the kids. They can play games. We'll both put on our blindfolds and play a blindfolded game of Uno together. We'll both put on our blindfolds and toss a balloon back and forth in the backyard and keep practicing this gift and ability together as a whole family. And so that's how we started collaborating with Dahlia, who's a world-renowned expert in working with blind adults. And she's refined a really beautiful methodology of working with adults, including blind adults, which lends us so much confidence in these gifts that it's definitely not cheating or peeking through a crack or something. And so now we're about to have our 5th adult workshop where all these adults are just absolutely blowing our minds. They're opening up in person in the group field we create in our in-person retreats almost as fast as the children. So I think this whole idea we used to have that adults are too far gone, they can't tap into this ability, used to be true, but it seems like we've hit some kind of 100th monkey effect now. If you can get the right field coherence going, the right people, we have an application process for all of our classes and workshops, because part of it is that we're all bringing our beautiful essence, our energy, and co-creating a field of possibility and stabilizing for each other. And that's the secret sauce to this rapid acceleration to these possibilities.
Totally. Oh, it's so thrilling. It's so thrilling to hear about this. And I I'm more drawn to working with adults, and I feel like in the work that I do, I, I, it can be slow because there's so much conditioning that we have, but I feel like we totally still have the ability. I mean, like, I didn't even think I was psychic my whole life. I didn't feel like a psychic child, and I didn't I didn't think I had any psychic abilities until I started to I chose to stop dismissing the little subtle, you know, like like if I had a dream that I was like, that wasn't a dream, instead of just dismissing it because, like, oh, that's not enough to be counted as psychic, I wrote it down and I wrote it down and I wrote it down, and it started to compound, and it's like I realized what I already had going on and I could play with it and grow it. And I feel like adults, we totally have that ability. It is a little bit slower, but I can totally see how, like, there's the 100th monkey effect 100%. And sometimes it's like seeing is believing. So if they're seeing all these children be able to view objects, like view with the blindfold on, then it helps to, I don't know, like, um disassemble the brick walls of conditioning that have, been erected through life, that keep us in this limited experience and understanding of ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. In our workshops, in the adult workshops, not only do we work on the blindfolded perception, which includes blindfold touch, blindfold hovering, energetic sense, blindfolded hearing sense, smell, taste, all the other senses, and intuitive knowing, like a claircognizance sense that
Mhm.
sometimes just spontaneously activates in people. And then the blindfolded seeing part, which is a light sensing, visual sensing. We work on all of those, and we discovered that everybody has inclinations towards any one of them and sometimes multiple of them, and eventually they scaffold together into an intuitive synesthesia ability where all the senses are engaged in this seeing, sensing, feeling, knowing, all of it, which then primes us to become more telepathic. There's a whole progression of skills that opens up. There's that, but there's also we stick coins on the wall and spoons on the wall and different objects on the wall. We just have so much fun. And we bend spoons, we do telekinesis. I won't give away all the other extracurricular fun games that we play at these workshops. But because our adult training was inspired by the families of our kids program originally, we do our best to offer childcare in every one of these adult workshops so that our parents can, if they want, bring the kids. And
Mm.
most of the kids that come get the childcare are these magical kids that have graduated from our kids program. So they're running around being like, what's the big deal? Everybody can do blindfold vision, you know? And so we showed the kids like sticking things on the wall. We stick one spoon on the wall, which we were like, oh my God, I stuck a spoon on the wall and it's staying. Oh my God. The kids will come during lunch break, like, what's the big deal? And they'll stick 100 spoons on the wall. And we're doing spinning the side wheel, for example, and the kids are like backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards. Or we'll magnetize metal. And we're like, oh my God, we got to pick up with a butter knife, a paper clip. We magnetize the metal with our mind. And then the kids are like, magnetize, demagnetize, back and forth and back and forth. And they get a whole chain of metal, like all linked up with the magnetic force field that they create. So part of our secret sauce to success is that we show the kids. Then the kids will do it so joyfully and easily because they don't have all of this belief structures to have to disassemble in order to tap into it. Then we open ourselves with, I guess, our mirror neurons. We're like mirroring, like we just open ourselves to a state of awe and wonder to absorb in the codes. So it's in the field of the retreat space now. And the kids are just there. They're not taking the workshop. They just come during lunch break to be like, Mama, Dada, how's it going? And then kisses and snuggles because our nanny that takes care of the kids needs a lunch break, right? And then they're like, what's the big deal? Coins stick stuff on the wall, you know, like the kids will just like do it in 5 seconds. And then that's like the moment where it's like, okay, I don't need to make this any harder than it is. Just do it, you know? So that's a huge part of our secret sauce to success is the community, you know? We've created this beautiful culture of creativity and joy and play, and then we tap into these gifts and abilities so directly and so quickly. It's just such a it's I sometimes can't believe that that's what I'm doing now, but that's my life right now is bringing together all these magical families, adults, kids, teens. Our kids program now take kids from 5 all the way to 15. We expanded it, and everybody's getting incredible results. And I'm just, yeah, the so-called new earth is already here.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. And is it okay if I share a vision with you that I had last year? Because it reminds me so much of what you're saying.
I would love to hear.
Last year, it was a tough year because my father died suddenly, and then I also had a miscarriage 6 months later, or 6 weeks later, sorry. And it right after it, things like that have a way of like cracking me open to grace and allowing me to receive something that I might have previously been blocking out. Um, so after we buried my dad, and right before I realized that I had miscarried, I had this vision. I was so exhausted, and I was kind of just sitting up before going to sleep and I don't know, deep breathing, just trying to bring my energy into coherence. And I had a vision that my dad was really happy that we had buried him in the way that we did. And he was just everywhere and smiling at me. And I walked with him to a riverbank and he disappeared. And I remember just being there and being like, well, now what do I do? And I had this instinct to put down all of my baggage, like just put everything down, let it go. And I stepped into the river, and it was a shallow river, and I just kept walking towards the other side, and the other side just looked normal. I couldn't see anything, but I felt compelled to keep walking. And when I got to the other side and my foot touched the bank on the other side, there was a whole world there, and it looked the same, like it looked like earth. This is, to me, it was new earth. It was like the fifth dimension of consciousness that we are able to access. And there were so many children there, and they were just playing everywhere, and there was a smaller number of adults, a small number, but the adults were so welcoming and excited and like, oh hey, like one more person, amazing. And they invited me over, and we all sat in a circle, and it was, maybe like a circle of 8 adults, and they showed me that we can all like project and align our thought field together and tap into the seed code, the seed geometry of a given object. But in this case, for to show me the example, it was the seed code, the seed sort of like geometric, cymatic code, the essence of a green apple. And we just focused our thoughts together, and the apple just appeared out of the ether. And then the man who was there grabbed it and took a big bite, and it was like it was a physical apple, juicy and sweet, and he laughed and smiled and passed it around, and we all took a bite, and the kids were like, no big deal, like of course. And I remember feeling so, I don't know, it like it was a vision, but it was a sensory complete. It was kind of like when you described going into the cosmos, like I was elsewhere. And I felt so certain that yeah, the world looks like a shit show right now, but it's totally fine because this is where we're going. This is the door that's opening. We're just all making our own journey, like across the river, so to speak. But it's right here. And the more of us who, make it there, the more of us who play in this field of possibility, even if we're not doing it perfectly or we're not doing it to our maximum capacity and we're not perfect humans and we still have our moments of being like scrunchy and crunchy and wobbly, the more we play in this field together, the more like tangible and palpable that field becomes, the easier it is for everybody else to sync up to it.
Wow. I love that the children basically already are there, but one by
Yes.
one, us adults were catching up and crossing the river.
Yeah,
It's so beautiful. Can I add another piece of the puzzle to your
of
vision?
course.
So after our adult workshop, it's quite common. A number of us, after our adult workshops, find ourselves on the hill. For your audience that's not aware, the hill is the name that has been given in the common vernacular now, based on the telepathy tapes of these autistic, savant, gifted young people. They gather at a place called the hill to support each other, to teach and learn, and so on. So many of us adults, after our adult blindfold training workshops, we find ourselves in our dream time seeing each other on the hill and taking classes together. And so one of the practices we learn in our adult blindfold workshop is not only we start with something simple like touching this paper and touching this paper. I have a bright yellow and a dark blue. And it becomes, once you calibrate to it, you wonder how it's possible that you never, like, they're so different. They're the same thickness cardstock, but they feel different. They have a different texture, different maybe temperature, different energy to it. The moment you touch it, you're like, it's so different. Or for some of us, we wiggle the paper or scratch it, and these different sound vibrations, they sound very different. And so gradually you do more and more subtle colors and shapes and so on. So there's a progression of advancement there that we're learning to attune to. But then gradually we're able to hover further and further, and you can hover your hands and your arms over different objects like this cup and sense into the shape of the cup, right? And so you can start sensing into the vibratory signatures of all kinds of objects around you. Well, the piece that I learned on the hill through teachings from these autistic savants that I've gotten to know, and one of them is Dahlia's daughter, Lidu, who also teaches about telepathy in our adult workshops. She's a telepathic, incredible teenager and wisdom keeper. She's an angelic being pretending to be in human form, really. Um, so sometimes we meet her on the hill and she continues to teach us different things. I was taking this class on the hill where this hovering sense, you can get more and more refined with it, where you actually absorb the imprint, exactly like you said, Amy. You absorb the imprint of the geometric pattern and the energetic and frequency blueprint of that object. So that code gets taken in, and then you project it back out to materialize the form. So the how you know the energetic blueprint, there's a process to get attuned to that too. So I think there was no accident that we're supposed to put these pieces of the puzzle together. Because how
Oh,
you know the energy pattern of the apple, you have to entrain your system to it first before you can project it back out.
yeah, oh, it's so funny because I had got my plan for this summer. I had had this sense like, okay, I need to go and get like go to the craft store and get a bag of colorful pom-poms that are all the same like shape and size, and pick one of each color and just hover my hand over and practice knowing what color it is without
Yes.
seeing what color it is. So it's really interesting. It's just confirmation that yeah, that's the step, is this increasing awareness to the vibrational sensitivity, or increasing awareness to our sensitivity to the vibrational variation in the field, which we're totally capable of. And it kind of brings me back to the beginning of your story when you decided to leave your previous career path, and that your favorite classes were the acupuncture classes, and learning how to like with sensitivity and dexterity like direct that chi, that life force. And then also the qigong classes where you were, it sounded to me what you were describing was like shifting out of the more sort of like linear chronological time and into more like chronos quantum time of like the just the like deep presence. And there's so much information around us here that we can attune to, but we're often like so busy that it gets really crowded out. And you chose a path and chose to, but you chose joyfully to devote yourself to um, being deeply present. And it nourished you from the way that you described it. It nourished you and it healed you furthermore. So even though you were eating like rice and sauce packets, your body was healing.
Yeah, yeah. I wrote a book called SuperWellness some years ago, and it talks about the priority of these different things because many of us holistically minded people are so focused on, improving our health and physiology by focusing on our diets. But, our state of being, the joy and the richness and fulfillment of our lives, also our breathing pattern and the types of water that we drink, and so on, nature time, sunshine during the day, darkness at night, fresh air, all these other things. They, at least clinically, I've seen with my patients with seemingly incurable conditions, according to Western medicine, in finger quotes, over and over again, I find that the profound healing that gave them the most results, the kinds of stuff that they reattune and realign to, the diet was a very small piece, but all these other aspects was much more profound of a factor in what led to their healing. And with that as a background, I saw that these awakening of supposedly superhuman abilities are no different. When we're in a state of joy and play and richness and fulfillment, we are tapped into a super coherent flow state where spontaneous healing is possible, where intuitive gifts arise, where all of these abilities, they just show itself as a byproduct. So one of the things we shared off camera was if there was one theme that I would love the audience to take away from this conversation, it would be that, yeah, it's really cool to have these abilities. The ability to see blindfolded, the ability to stick a coin or a spoon or whatever onto the wall, the ability to see, sense, and feel and know objects just by touch or just by hovering your hands over it. It seems really cool. But actually, all of these are side effects of a deeper alignment. These are side effects of tapping into our truest, deepest essence and living life in this super coherent flow state. And as a byproduct of it, our children's and families program, the parents are telling us the kids' so-called ADHD diagnosis goes away. The kids that have dyslexia, they put on the blindfold, and many of them are able to read fluently with no dyslexia blindfolded, better than, before the blindfold training, without the blindfold. Um, art, music, sports, like this kind of tapping into our deepest flow state. What won't it benefit? But we use all of these game-like form, like it's really a play-based game-like form of meditative play, you know, that that we're experiencing here to remind us who and what we really are in a very tangible, visible way. That's what this work really is. It's just a remembrance of who and what we really are through a game-like form of play.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it so much. And you must be so happy, and I'm certainly so happy, and I'm sure many people are, that you chose you chose this path way back when it felt, like you were going against the what your family would wish for you, and that, it was kind of crazy to walk away from a well-paying career to just be like, I just really want to pursue Chinese medicine. And now look what you're sharing with the world. It's so beautiful.
I get teary-eyed thinking about it because lately, when we first started our kids program, it was just a leap of faith, and it was a leap of faith on Baudin's part because I just told him, "Hey, let's rework the whole methodology and let's just see how it goes." And we laugh now. He was like, "Can you get 5 families together?" And I was like, "Hey, we have thousands of family on my email list that might be interested in this." And now through podcasts like yours, many tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and many more families are hearing about this work now. Um, but in those early days, it was just a giant leap of faith. I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. Um, oh, the piece that I wanted to share is in the beginning, it was always just the moms that would bring the kids. And then lately it's been 50-50 moms and dads. And many of the couples are telling us, wow, this really changed, opened our whole family to a whole world of possibilities. And the dads, the moms intuitively knew that they felt this calling to experience this as a family. The dads had to see it with their eyes. They see the kids after the first 2 lessons. Then the dad is like, okay, I want to come participate in the third and fourth class and see what this is about. And now, even in our first parents coaching call, it's really even 50-50 dads and moms. It's so beautiful. And then lately, grandparents are helping to co-facilitate, and the grandparents are like, wow, I didn't know these possibilities would be available. And then the full circle that makes me teary-eyed is that sometimes I post videos of my kids doing blindfold vision, and sometimes they do more advanced things like with the mask, extended or a shield over it and different things. um my mom, who when I was 4 was part of the storyline that I had as a child of like, you can't do this, it's impossible. She's so proud of her grandkids. Like, oh, honeys, I saw on Facebook and Instagram. Grandma's so proud of you. You can see blindfolded. And I saw you doing the Rubik's Cube blindfolded, and it was so good and so smooth and so fast. Grandma's so proud of you. And so that becomes this like multi-generational healing for so many of our families as we get the moms, the dads, the grandparents, and gradually the aunties and uncles and the extended community. The ripple is so beautiful, and I feel so emotional and so grateful to be part of this ripple effect that's happening.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what an incredible blessing you are. You're offering to the world, um, just through your joy and your openness and willingness to be in it and explore and foster community and connection around the reclamation of these possibilities. Mhm.
Thank you for seeing this. Thank you for this beautiful conversation, Amy.
Yeah, it's been so amazing. Is there anything that you'd like to share with my audience of how they can connect with you? We'll have all the links in the show notes, of course, but if there's anything you want to mention.
Yeah, I do want to mention because a lot of people have been asking us how can they spread this work in their local community. So as you know, Erin is part of our internal team now. We gradually grew, just me and Bodan, to a few more facilitators. Now we have 9 facilitators on our team that are able to, because we have hundreds of families on the wait list and we wanted to serve everybody. So now we're able to have a lot more classes and sections and more iterations of our kids and family classes, which frees up more of my time to focus on building up the adult training programs, which has been so beautiful. So we've got the kids and adults, and to keep sharing this magic and beauty with the world, we are launching this summer a facilitator training program for external families and communities. So anybody that has a community of kids and families locally, we'd love for you to go through our facilitator training program starting this summer. July 11th, we're going to launch it. This will allow you to understand the entire methodology and how to run in-person groups, kids classes, or one-on-one kids classes locally and get your local community involved. And so if you're interested in that, my website is blindfold.vision, where you can go and look at the kids program, the facilitator training, and then the adult training. All 3 of these options are available. And then next year, we can transition to the more advanced training where we can show you how to do it over the internet, which is a lot more complex and nuanced, because to do it over the internet requires that you really focus on coaching the moms and dads a lot, to rely on them to do all of the games and to set up the coherent field of energy in their home in just the right way. So we start with just in-person trainings this year with our facilitator training. And yeah, I'm excited to see the ripples continue to grow.
Oh my gosh, they're just, I can see it as you're talking. I'm like, it's huge. It's huge. This is so thrilling. Well, thank you so much for just like sharing your beautiful essence with us, your beautiful soul, and the magic that you are helping to bring to the world. Thank you, Dr. Edith.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you to the audience for sharing this conversation with us.
Absolutely. This was so good. I'm so excited to share it.
Yay! Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
You're such a great, um, well, it's not your first rodeo. You're such a, I just love the energy that you bring to your show. It's so, um, it's, it's so comfortable and in flow, the way that you hold the energy. Yeah, not
Oh,
too formal. There's no like rigidity to it. It just flows perfectly.
thank you. I mean, I live for these conversations, so it's nourishing me to have conversations like this as well. And if I'm going to be nourished by it, I might as well share it with anybody else who wants to listen.
Yay.
Yeah.
Where are you based? Remind me.
I'm in Ontario, Canada.
Okay, Bodan is in Ontario, just outside Toronto, also.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing.
who started the kids program with me. Yeah,
Yeah, that's
awesome.
amazing.
How is your local community right now?
I live in a lovely, so I live in a city, a small city called Owen Sound, and I feel like it's such a beautiful place. Like I don't know, like I can't quite tell the level of awakening because I kind of like, I do my thing on the internet and I have like quiet conversations, I'm not like, oh, I'm a spiritual awakening person within my community, but I always just feel like everybody's energy is so lovely. And when you were sharing about the facilitator training, I was like, oh, I should sign up for that because my kids go to a Montessori school and it's small and really lovely, and the parents are lovely. I just think that there'd be so many people there who would be like, oh, yes, let's sign up for that.
Cool.
Mhm.
Awesome. Awesome. A lot of people ask me, why don't you bring this into the school system? And I just have this feeling that the kinds of people that would be a great facilitators, some of them might be school teachers, but mostly they're probably moms and dads in the community that see that the school system has shortcomings. It does certain things that works for your family, but you want to enrich it with all these other holistic experiences. And, like you're tapped into the community and you are tapped into conversations with other families that are like,
Hmm.
I wish the school was not so limited in this way. And it's like, oh, here's the solution.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, totally. My parents were elementary school teachers, and I feel like I I just will never send my kids to a public school. Yeah. I saw the inside and experienced it from the inside. It's just not, I think it shuts out all of that beautiful, playful exploration. But I think you're right. I think parents are the ones who are open to exploring the magic and bringing the magic to the kids.
One of our teachers in our facilitator team, our internal team, her name is Carrie, and she's a longtime Waldorf teacher, and she's been feeling stifled by the Waldorf system,
Oh, wow.
actually. So that's like those are the types of people where you're so like deeply immersed in these alternative education paradigms that you know how to break the rules of it. That's who Carrie is. And so actually in 2021, she didn't want to get the jab and they fired her.
Hmm.
And then, but she's so good that they begged her to come back. They're like, we can't find anybody so amazing as you. And we have this really rowdy, fifth grade class. We really need someone super amazing and experienced and really grounded to manage the rowdiness of all of these boys that are in the, fifth grade age where they're like tweens and, all this energy. And so she's bringing this as an after school program to her community, and it's been incredible what's happening, and it's totally reattuned the energetics of these rowdy boys so that they aren't all over the place and their energies are really attuned. But before, in a Waldorf situation, they try to do mindfulness meditation classes, they have yoga, they have different spiritual practices that they offer, but something about this game-like form of play engages the kids and taps them into this meditative state where they can hold it and they embody it more quickly and more stably. And it's been amazing to hear what she's building in her local New Zealand community.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense to me because if a child has like a lot of kinetic energy in their body, and it's hard for them to sit still, or their energy is like my son, he's just like blah blah all over the place. A game gives you an objective, like a reason to want to hone your focus, whereas yoga or mindfulness is kind of like, oh, like I don't want to do this, I want to get up and run around and play. So that makes
Yeah,
sense.
well, there's that. And then there is also something else that the flip side that happened is that we find that if the child needs to squirm, we're like, okay, go ahead and squirm. Let's all jump up and down and move the energy. And we do that. And
Right.
boom, their windows of perception opens and suddenly they see everything. They're reading everything. And you're like, oh my gosh. So as the adult was witnessing this, you're like, there's reason that they need to squirm. So my
Right.
boys, one of the stories that is the parents tell me is really moving is that my boy was super squirmy when he was activating his blindfold vision. And then he started doing the squirmy thing. He had to hang upside down, jump up and down, and do all of this, like almost like autistic stimming and
Hmm.
all these movements. And then we were doing math because we homeschool. And I was like, honey, 'cause I'm like a uptight Asian mom, like it's so in my system. He starts saying, Mama, I need to grab the answer from space. Give me a second. Because I'm like, sit still, you're doing math, right? And I'm like, okay. And he's doing all this squirmy thing. And sometimes he hangs himself upside down, all this stuff. And then he gets the answer. And then I'm watching him in 2 years go from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade. He did kindergarten to second grade in 2 weeks, then third, fourth, fifth grade, all the way through eighth grade in 2 years.
Wow.
And when he was 9, he did ninth grade math. When he was 10, he did 10th grade math. And now he's 11, he's doing 11th grade math. And finally, now at 11, he sits still for his math. But all throughout that journey, when he squirmed, he would get the right answer. So I'm like, he's attuning to his antenna. So I realized that there is a lot of wisdom and intelligence to the squirminess too.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, as a uptight Asian immigrant background, all this stuff, like he had to show it to me through his exceptional math skill for me to get it through my own dense head that some children can sit still. Some children, if they're not sitting still, is for a good reason, you know.
Yeah, it's probably the same mechanism that, the same body, deep body wisdom intelligence that moves us through labor when we just surrender to it, right? It's the same kind of thing. It's just like, what? I
Wow.
don't know. Your body just needs to take this position. Why? Your thinking brain doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just,
Yeah, and yeah, we make funny sounds during labor, and it's like exactly the medicine that's needed in that moment. There's so many parallels. I'm grateful for this conversation because you're making me connect a lot of dots about the labor process and how we attune the energetic flows for all of these. I mean, birth is a superpower, you know?
it is.
It's like a superhuman, is an expression of our superhuman abilities right there. So wow, I hadn't made those connections before today. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for this conversation. This was incredible. Thank you for the work that you do. I'm so glad that we have Aaron in common. And yeah, it's just you're
Erin is
hearing
amazing.
about what you have done with Aaron, like Aaron has done with you, and her family has been so totally affirming to me to just keep going and describing these wild things that I see that humans can do because there's a way. And if I just describe the end result, then the little path will be shown and somebody else is getting that information as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Erin is amazing. Also, her work with you and her work with GNM and like biofield tuning and biogeometry. Like she's also a dot connector. So when I talk with her,
Yeah.
it's similar to talking with you, where it's like, oh, bing, new insights will come through, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you feel the inspiration for a part two conversation or some other way
Oh,
to
for sure.
collaborate, this just it just feels like kindred spirit soul sisters. Is so beautiful to connect with you.
Yeah, likewise. Absolutely. I would love you have an open invitation to come back on the podcast anytime. Also, like if there's anything that you're like, whoa, this is blowing my mind, or I'd love to have an audience that is kind of like I don't have to lay the foundations for to talk about this with. You reach out, but totally, I'm so open to any collaboration that would benefit, you know, the collective.
Awesome. I'm kind of like wanting to talk more because that what you shared about your dream and your vision, I can just feel like anytime I talk to you, I'll have more like you know, the ping pong effect of these conversations are really special.
Yeah, it's like we're both getting pieces of the exact same puzzle, and we're getting pieces that fit together.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, out of this conversation, if there's any specific thread you want to focus on, like just on parenting or education or any, because there's a lot more to share about what this work has to do with telepathy also, you know.
Yeah. I
Um
would love to talk about that because I've gotten so much information about telepathy and I've found it challenging to um do it in groups online, but I think it's also because I tend to lead my groups by myself, so it feels like a lot to hold also with having kids and like I don't really have a team or anything, but even I think even just talking about telepathy is really there's just more and more sort of I call it the mechanics, like this is how it works in our bodies, in our chakras, in our energy fields, and I think that my audiences would definitely love to hear about that.
Yay. Yeah,
Mhm.
how I connected with Dali. I didn't share that story, but it was because her daughter Lidu telepathically tuned into me. And
Yeah.
then she reached out to this woman named Victoria, who's like the softest, most gentle soul that's never pushy. But Victoria's like, sorry, Dr. Edith, I've been texting you and calling you and emailing you and messaging you and voice notes noting you, texting, Telegram, all these things. I'm like, okay, I'll pay attention. And then it turns out there was a message. It was like, Dr. Edith is going to help bring telepathy to the world. I have to meet her.
Oh yeah. Let's do it.
This she spelled it on the letterboard. And then once I said yes to it, she started jumping into my dreams and showing me different things. And then I connected with her mom and realized that her mom was just beginning to become the world-renowned expert in mindsight training for blind adults. And that's how all of this started,
Wow.
got started. And it was just around that time that people were asking me, Dr. Edith, why don't you do adult training? I'm like, well, there's these other people. They have a 12-month training. This person has a 10-day training. This person has a 6-day training. And people are like, 6 days? I have kids. How do I, that's like 8 days out of my life. And so that's when Dahlia and I met together and refined all of the adult protocols and reworked the whole thing also. The same as what I did with Bodan, where we were like looking at the landscape of this entire body of work. Like, there's a more efficient way to make a way greater impact. And it's let's take a different approach. And we did that with the adults too. So I didn't get to share that part of the story, of course. There's a
That's
lot of,
amazing.
yeah.
That
Yeah,
is
so
so
I kind of
amazing.
like I didn't ask for any of this, just like you, right? Like sometimes you just follow one step and another
Yeah,
step, and then you're shown the next step, and you're shown the next step. Yeah.
right. And that, I mean, that's what happens. And I think it's like the byproduct of choosing to answer that call, that feeling of like, okay, I got to be willing to leave behind the safety, the safe path, the safety net, and take a leap of faith and then cultivate joy. Like let that be enough. And that's what creates the space for the next piece to come in. Hmm. Yeah.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes. Cheers.
Cheers. So
Okay,
good.
so can I let you sit with what's the right timing for our part two conversation? I just love and appreciate you so much. This feels really good, this level of conversation that we can share. It's just
Yeah.
it's so nice. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. Yeah, I'll sit with it and reach out to you and we'll make an arrangement for a part two and just let all the magic unfold.
Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you for today.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you, Dr. Edith.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.